Hi, welcome to the Amplify Speakers podcast, where we have conversations with people whose ideas and experiences are helping others lead, grow, and perform at their best. Today, I'm joined by Andrea Parker. Andrea helps leaders and teams use fun as a strategic advantage to transform high pressure environments into cultures where engagement, creativity, and performance thrive. Before her work in leadership and performance, Andrea spent nearly a decade as a police detective, operating in high stakes environments where clarity, discipline, and real time decision making mattered. Today, she's an international professional certified coach who has worked with organizations like IMEX, MPI, REMAX, and GBTA, helping leaders interrupt pressure in real time, regain clarity, and perform at a high level without losing themselves in the process. Andrea, welcome to the podcast.
Yay, thanks, Chris. I am excited for this.
Same here. I love your entire framework, the purpose of what you're talking about, and I really want to dive into that. I think, but first, I want to go back to how did you pivot from police work into impacting lives and coaching?
Yes, because it seems like a random transition. And for me, it was always about I loved playing at my best. And it got to the point where even in policing, like I had moved up the ranks fairly quickly. I was one of the only females when I first started on my platoon, so I got a lot of experience in a short period of time. And I was basically on paper, I was winning. I was thriving. I was doing quite well. And there was still always this part of me that really wanted more. I wanted more lifestyle. I wanted more freedom. I wanted more joy. Even though I was doing well in policing, I still felt like, and I don't know that I had the language for it back then, but I still felt like in pursuit of this success, I lost a bit of my spark and my joy along the way. And I kind of felt like I had to choose. And and then I had what I kind of call my wake up moment. And I was driving, I was alone, and I was having a full blown anaphylaxis reaction. And I knew that because I had one the month before. And basically, I had to figure out how to use my new EpiPen, stab myself in the leg, and figure out how to get to the hospital, which I do not recommend doing behind the wheel. And that was my kind of my aha moment that it really hit me because I didn't know if I was going to make it. And I was like, what is the point of all of this? Like I love working. I love putting my energy towards something. But the aha was like, what is the point of this if I'm not actually truly enjoying the experience along the way? And I made it to the hospital, but that was the click for me that it's like it really doesn't have to be joy and achievement. You can have both. So I actually started bringing some joy into policing. And the more I did that, the more I started to be curious outside as well. I started to learn more about human behavior. I got trained by some of the best coaches and mentors in human behavior, subconscious programming, just performance based coaching. And I really took that to heart and I started to help other people. And it started to be fun for me. I loved bringing out the potential. And then that followed through in policing as well. And the cool part is that before I started this, I hated being a police officer. Like I was good at it, but I didn't love it. But through this process, I actually got to bring joy and like I'm actually pretty grateful. Like I started to bring more enjoyment into it. I'm like, this is actually something that I was grateful for. And that allowed me to, I think, accelerate my own process. And then when I did start coaching these other leaders, I had a really good, I think, personal insights for what it's like to be in high pressure environments and to still feel safe to bring joy into it. And then I left policing. I started to coach a lot of leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners who are really successful on paper, but they wanted to do it from a different way. They wanted it more sustainable. They wanted to bring some of their fulfillment and really their themselves back into that process. And that's when it clicked for me that fun and joy was the path. That's the fastest way. That it's not the only way, but it's one of the most fun ways to actually achieve success in a way that feels meaningful for you as well.
Ah, I love that. And, I think I'm excited to dive into it because I think a lot of people go, how's the incorporating fun gonna make somebody better at their job or better at home, better leader? I want to dive back though. One of the things that you said in there that it kind of lit a light bulb in me is you were talking about how as you were learning new things, and bringing that back into work, that you found yourself enjoying work more. And some I actually just heard yesterday, or doomed to stay scrolling. There's a study saying on how if you are working on something new or a new project, if you're doing something and your focus is on a building or new, it could be a passion project to the side, that you are more likely to be engaged and enjoy work than if you are just going through the emotions. And that was kind of the light bulb as you're saying that. I'm like, well, that's exactly what I was reading last night. Do you feel, that was the case for you? Was it building the passion project that lit it, or was it because you felt like you took a pivot in that role, and were focusing on something different than the day?
I think it was both because one, I think for me, especially in, we'll say like specifically in that time, I didn't allow myself to enjoy at work at all. Like I felt like I needed to be productive. I needed to be on. Like I didn't even allow myself to enjoy my coffee. I wouldn't allow myself to have lunch, like simple things. Or if I went for a walk during the day, it's like, that's frivolous. I can't take time out of my, like, yeah, you can. Like, what are you doing? You're just pushing at your desk. You can get your work done a lot more efficiently if you're in a different energy. Same with working out. Like, I had the flexibility where I could work out. I just felt guilty for doing the things that I wanted to do. So part of it was I started to give myself permission to do those things and not have to be on all the time. And what I found is that started to shift my energy so that when I was working, I was way more efficient. I was more effective. I was coming from a whole different energy. So there was that. But also simultaneously, when I would go home, it wasn't just fully focused on working and overworking and pushing more and thinking about it. It was shifting into, now I'm doing something that brings out a different side of me, which is the creativity, the inspiration. I love learning. And when you're in this place of, I think, curiosity and play, and it sparks something new in you, it gets you out of the survival mode. It gets you out of the mundane, constant re-looping of the same old pressure patterns. And that's where your genius comes in. I think like you can't, what I say in my keynote, it's like you could be that flogged workhorse, you could be burnt out, always pushing, or you could be that joyous racehorse because you actually enjoy the game. So it's like, make the game fun for you. Nobody says that you have to sit at your desk and make it the most miserable experience. Like, they might teach you that in school, and that might be the expectation. But it's like we actually get to choose to bring the energy, to bring the joy. And I think that to answer the question, it's like it was a bit of both, but there was also this conscious intention where I was like, I'm going to put the effort into making it more enjoyable for myself.
I really love that. And I think, one of the things that just at the tail end that I think's important is use the word effort. And I think that's really important when you're talking about fun because more often than not, it has to be intentional. I don't think most of us go to work and go, today I'm going to have fun. And if I am, I have like, how am I going to have fun? What am I going to do? So curious, I'm sure there's a lot of people going, okay, I don't know if that really works for me. How, what would be advice for someone saying, we just go into work every day and leave work every day. And it just kind of feels like we're in that day to day.
Yeah, I would say one of the most simple places to start is to start asking better questions, to interrupt that same loop or that same pressure pattern or the same thoughts. So interrupting it, and it can be as simple as just asking, what would make this more fun? And when you wake up, instead of reaching for your phone or rushing into emails, it could be, okay, what would make this more fun? A different way to experience that is, what would make this more enjoyable for me? How can I savor my morning? What is something that I can do to bring even more enjoyment into my process? Because that starts the shift from, because a lot of the times we're just rethinking the same thoughts. We're acting the same way. I knew when I was in policing, I had the same pattern. I'd get up, I would check my work phone, I would then get in my car, I'd throw on the news, I would check all the reports that happened the night before. Not fun. It was like this doomsday beginning of my day. Opposed to, then I was like, okay, what would make my morning more enjoyable? Put my phone on silent until a certain time. I was like, I'm going to give myself permission to have my coffee. I'm going to walk for 10 minutes or do some gratitudes. I'm going to not listen to the news, and so it's like little things. Now it's like, what would make even before this podcast, I was like, what would make this podcast even more fun? And for me, it was like, take the pressure off and allow myself to be present. So sometimes it's not even something that we have to do. It's an intention that we can have for the energy that we're showing up in. And a lot of the times we're just not aware of it because it's just become part of the mundane. So asking what would make this more fun, I think is a really good step to start shifting some of those patterns.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful paradigm shift. I mean, the aha moments going as you're sitting here speaking, and it's not this whole big change. Just realizing we're in control of ourselves and how we feel about in moments, and taking what we're doing. I love that. Just taking what we're doing and going, okay, I can drink the coffee and stare off, or I can sit here and I can enjoy it. I can enjoy knowing I'm going to be walking in here, but I can take it in the outdoors on the way here. I can take enjoyment in walking by the people in the hallway and saying hi and ask them how they're doing. So I think there's a lot of power in realizing sometimes that we have probably more control in how good or bad our day goes. And a lot of it, I think, is probably built into ourselves.
Absolutely. It reminds me of, so I had this woman, she messaged me, it was after a keynote, and she's like, at first I was like, okay, fun sounds great, joy sounds great. She goes, but I don't see how that's relevant in my job. She goes, my job is not fun. And then she's like, but I could hear you keep in my head multiple times a day saying, what would make this more fun? So she's like, what I started to do is she started asking it, and she's like, oh, so instead of pushing through this project, sitting at my desk, pushing through, she goes, I went for a 5-minute break and I went for a walk. And then she started with other little things throughout her day, just to even break it up. And she goes, I realized that her basically her default was just to sit at her desk all day. And that was like just sucking the energy out of her experience. So it's, even when you think like, how would this apply to me? It's like, you deserve to have some enjoyment in your work. When you are having fun, when you're at least bringing some lightness to your experience, other people will feel that too. And that's where the results start to show. And the more you start seeing results, like results are fun, that's gonna then give you more permission and more momentum to continue to follow that fun.
Completely. And I'm just thinking of, like, you're talking a major ripple effect. Is you got a team, and one person or a few people on that team aren't feeling like they're coming into work having fun or enjoying it or in a bad mood. It only takes one. And you're sitting around that person, it rubs off. I mean, the whole, you throw a rotten apple into a bunch of other ones, it does rub off on them. And that is so true. And so, a lot of what you're saying, that's really powerful to think if we can get that shift and everyone's coming in and excited every single day, that equals productivity as well.
It does. And this is where fun can also take courage, because sometimes like you could be the bright light in your current team dynamic. Like sometimes that just happens. I've even had teams like where I was part of platoons, and they were toxic. They were really tough. And what you kind of do to survive in them is you learn to kind of dim back your joy a bit. Maybe you don't share the creative idea you have. You stop doing the things that maybe make you shine so that you can keep the status quo. And this will work to a certain extent. But if you really want to thrive in your work and your business, this is where I think it does also take a little bit of courage to also be like, how can I still bring joy? How can I still bring my energy? And what I've seen, even like I'm thinking of one particular platoon I had, it was very toxic to the point where the sergeant would do performance reviews in front of everybody. So, and my performance reviews were usually pretty good because I liked going on calls, I liked doing the things, but then I was like, well, this isn't good because other people are going to get mad at me. But I just gave myself permission to continue to do it. I'm going to say years later, some of the people who were one of the most challenging ones on that platoon, they would come to me. Like they might not experience that first, but it changes. It does have a ripple effect. So it's like keeping focus. I have another woman, she's a bright light in her organization. And she's been kind of grind down. It's like people don't go for her ideas, but now she has a leader who gets it. Like she never gave up. So sometimes it's, yes, you could be the bright light, and it's like it's hard to hold that joy and spark among culture where it might not support it. Hold on to it. Do it anyways. Do it for yourself. It will change. I can guarantee it if you continue to follow that magic. But then sometimes it's just maybe you're just in a season where, yeah, you kind of lost that, the remembering of, oh yeah, we can bring joy into this. And being on teams when you're having the ideas or you're playing with it and you can feel that. It's like sports. When a team is performing well and having fun together, that's why I loved watching the Olympics. Like you can see the ones who were light, who are having fun, who are performing well versus the ones who they were they were having a tough time.
Completely. It's, I think sports is actually one of the better examples where you can watch a high pressure moment in a game and look at the teams and look at the players. There's been plenty of times I'm looking at who they're giving a basketball to, or, the quarterback is they're coming out of the huddle, and I'm like, yeah, I don't feel good about them. And then there's other times I look at them and I'm like, well, they're going to probably win this. And you can see it in their faces. It doesn't always work out that way, but it's wild to know. You can tell when they're like, yep, we got this. If not, we're going to lay it all on the line. And other times you're like, yeah, I kind of feel like mentally they've already kind of thrown in the towel.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's why I think sports is such a great metaphor, but it's also like really tangible. And at the same time, this is where I think it's also a great example that fun isn't just like a free for all and you're not trying. It's actually you're going to play at your best, but you're going to do it from a different energy. And you can do it from the energy of, okay, well, maybe me grinding and overtraining isn't actually the best thing for me to do. Maybe I need to actually start paying attention to who would be the best fit for my coaches, who would be the best nutritionist. And this is where it does take action. And sometimes it's like, yeah, you got to have some tough conversations, but all in the pursuit of there is joy and fun that can still be part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to just relate it to sports, but I think you go back to if you're when you're younger, and if you're in a play and you're with a group of drama students, and your heart is to make one of the best productions ever, or, you're a singer and you're in a choir and you're like, I want this to be lights out. Same thing goes with sports. Most times, if I asked somebody that did any of those activities, was the best part of being in that group if they came up and brought you ice cream afterwards every single day after practice, or as you're working? Or was it when it was all said and done and the camaraderie and working really hard to build something, whether it's a beautiful performance or it was working really hard to, win a championship? And I rarely think I'm going to get the answer to go, oh, my favorite part was that they brought the ice cream at the end. So I think there's this difference of thinking like, oh, the fun is there air hockey in the room? Or is the fun like, we're working on something that we care about together as a team, and we're going to have fun in the process?
Yes. And that's where I truly believe when you're seeing winning teams, and it doesn't mean they're always at the best, but they're using it in a way that come together and it clicks and you're putting in the reps and the work, but you're doing it from a different energy. Like, that's why I love watching sports documentaries, because you can see it. You can see the process of it. I love it.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I can watch a great story about someone that did something any day, and it's right because you see it in your moment, and there's a reason it's inspiring. I think everyone wants to see that idea of like somebody work through or overcome that challenge and go there, because it reminds us that we're all people, we all have capabilities, and we all face hard things. It's just a matter of, are we willing to get out of our comfort zone and face those hard things, or do we just want to stay where we're at today and not take
Yeah.
the challenge?
Exactly. It reminds me of, it's not sports related, but I did a talk and a woman came up to me afterward and she goes, I really resonated with what you said about bringing fun and joy back into it. And she was the main caregiver of her mom. So she had a job, so she was really successful in that, but she was also the main caregiver. And she goes, it was heavy. And she goes, I realized that I lost my joy in this time. And also, even though it's heavy, even though there's this I would say challenging situation that she was navigating, she was like, I realized that I could still bring joy into my day, even when it's challenging, even when it's something that's hard. And I think that's the point. It's like, it can be hard, and on the other end of the spectrum, like, things could be going really well. Things could be awesome. And it's like, how can we add even more fun onto that? How can we bring more play into this? How can we maybe even now play at a higher level because we do have really good foundation? So I think the beauty part of it is we can use it wherever we are, whether things are going well, we're in some deeper challenges, whether it's personal or professional.
Yeah, completely. I really love hearing some of the stories, people that you've worked with and the change it's made. And I think it's probably hard for me to ask a question to like narrow that down, but can you think of one, a really good story of someone you were coaching, or, a talk you gave and they came up later down the road and said, this, I ended up doing this because of it?
Yeah, which one would be, there's so many different, the cool part is there's so many different spectrums. I've learned that I have to let go of how people use it. Like, this is not, I wouldn't say the most profound one, but this is one that someone just sent me like today. And it was from an event planner, and she goes, I just wanted, it was for a municipality. I spoke in front of everyone from like roads workers all the way up to the mayor. So it was a very diverse group within this organization, and they were this basically senior person. They had 25 years on, and they sent off their basically their final email for their retirement. And in it, he said that he's now transitioning from work mode, and he's going to allow himself to be a kid again. And how he signed off is basically he's starting this new adventure and he ended it with WTF, where's the fun? So what I'm taking from that is people take it in wherever they're at. Um, what I loved about that is there's no way I would have connected that in his retirement, he's going to follow the fun. He's going to bring fun into this new role, but also giving the people that he works with permission to be like, have fun now where you're at. Be a kid now with where you're at, or at least bring some lightness and some joy into it. And I think one of my favorite memories from this happening in real time was one of the things I get people to do is just to shout out, like, what would make this event more fun? And one of the ladies, she's like, bubbles. I'm like, that sounds fun. So me and the event planner were like, maybe we should get bubbles. So we were just kind of joking around with it. And then the event planner literally leaves. She goes and she somehow sources and finds these 2 bubble machines. She brings them back. And then the next session, basically before we end out the day, we have these bubble machines. We give it to the lady who wanted these, and she's been in this organization and she's really, I think she's a really big part of bringing the leadership through. And to see her running through the crowd with this bubble machine, playing with it, we then brought it to like the after party afterwards, and everyone just like played in these bubbles. So it can be profound, but can also just be light and fun and happen in real time. So yeah, I don't know if that's like the most profound one, but I think it shows that it can also be fun. Fun can be fun.
Yes. And I don't know if it's the most profound one. I don't want to say that, but what I will tell you is when you were telling that story, kid you not, I got goosebumps.
Mm.
Because, I mean, you made an impact in that talk, so much so that they reflected on what they want to do with their time and then use that to tell everyone else that that's what they're going to do with their time and they should incorporate that. So, I mean, I think that's pretty profound. That's a pretty major ripple effect to hear, like, because of you, people are going to go about their days just a little bit different.
Yeah, and I think we're good, and this is even myself, like this is still a practice for me because knowing it but allowing it, like how fun are you going to allow your experience to be? And this is where one other story kind of pops up, and it was actually it was an organization, high level leadership, and they were actually doing it on our lake. So I live on the lake, and they were renting or they had a place a couple doors down. So I went and we basically we went through this process. And when I came in, the team was they were not having a great day. That something had happened. The tension was high. We'll just say that. And we just went through the whole process, and we started to connect with what would be enjoyable for them, and we basically did the whole thing. But the magic, and I don't often get to see this afterwards in this exact way, is there's a couple people who were really taking, because they care, their job serious and themselves serious. So they were like, I really want to start giving myself permission to allow it to be more fun for me. And afterwards, I was sitting on my dock and I was just like enjoying the sunset with my wife, and I could hear laughter. And what had happened is after their event, they were like, what would make this more fun? So they all went down to the dock. There's a water trampoline. They all jump in except for this one lady. So they're jumping in, they're playing on this water trampoline. This one lady hasn't swam in 30 years. So she's like, I am so nervous to do this, but she was the one that's like, I'm going to allow it to be fun. And I could hear her because it's so quiet. She's like, I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and I'm going to do it. And she, like a kid, like at summer camp, ran down the dock, jumped in, swam to the water trampoline, and all of these adults just like played like kids for, I don't know, like half an hour as the sun went down on this water trampoline. And we had never talked about go jump in the water. It was more like, how can you allow it to be fun? And that's what she interpreted in the moment. So yeah, that one was a special one for me because I got to actually experience it without Like I never would have known that would have been part of their experience.
Yeah. Well, I think that plays into something that I believe is one of the most important things we can do as people and as businesses. And we talked a little bit about this earlier. Is we're blessed that all of us get to have memories. We can
Yeah.
look back and think of the great times that we have. And you're telling this story, and I've been to a lot of conferences. I've seen countless people speak, and I love it. And there's ones you just walk away from, and you don't forget about it. And over again, you keep sharing stories, and whether it's just adding bubbles going to do it, I don't think so. I really don't. I think you could bring bubbles in. You could bring some fun things in, and yeah, they might remember it. But when you add that to the core of your message and the framework you're giving and the inspiration, I can guarantee that those everyone that jumped off that dock that day are still going to remember that 10, 20 years from now. I can't say that for maybe everything else they do in work for the rest of the year, but they probably will never forget that for the rest of their life. And I think that's one of the most special gifts anybody is capable of giving. Isn't it?
Thank you. And I agree. It's like as kids, we knew this. We knew like it was about like let's get the rope swing, let's jump in the water. And it wasn't to create this perfect memory. It was to experience it. And it was that in the moment experiencing and being open and following that I think created these special I think moments. So now as adults, I think sometimes it all comes together, but sometimes it's also like how can we intentionally create those or at least create an environment where it's more likely that we're going to have some of those really cool experiences and memories and moments and savoring and just enjoyment.
Yes. I think it's some of the best advice any of us can hear. And I'm really enjoying this because, once again, I think it's too often than not, we go through day to day and we go, how am I, you think of 1% better or how to get better. And I'm going to add this into my routine. I'm going to start doing this. And I don't think often enough you go, how do I make it more fun?
Yeah.
Because that's when you win. At the end of the day, that's when you go to bed and you feel like that was one of the best days you've had.
You feel like it's worth it. Like it's a life worth living. It's a day worth experiencing. I agree. And we were talking a little bit before about our heart. I think it makes our hearts happy. It's not just doing something to do something. It's actually getting to experience life. And that's what it's all about.
It completely is what it's about. So, as I kind of wrap this up, I would like to know, do you have anything fun planned for today?
Ooh, for today. Yes. Okay. So I have a couple things. So I'm actually applying this framework. So bringing more fun into my day. I'm actually putting some tweaks on my keynote, which I'm super excited about. So for me, that's fun because it has the impact. But how I'm bringing more fun into it is I have a workout planned. It's actually sunny out here. I live in Canada and it's been freezing. So I'm going to go for a walk with my dog. I'm going to bring some joy into it. And then I have a little mini adventure planned in town later. So a little bit of intentional co-creation and then a little bit of movement and I love working out. So that's going to bring me joy.
Well, that sounds like a perfect day, to say the least.
Yes.
And a good example of we're all capable of taking some time and writing in some fun. So as I tie this up for everyone listening, I just want to let you know I will have Andrea Parker's website in the description. I really encourage you to please look at it. It's one of the best looking websites I've actually come across, and it screams WTF, where's the fun? As well as a link to her page on Amplify Speakers and her LinkedIn as well. So Andrea, this has been a lot of fun. I had a great time talking with you, and I really appreciate you being on the show.
Me too. I'm grateful for you, Chris.
Thanks, Andrea.